Should younger men date older women? My curiosity around this topic was spiked by Jennifer Lawrence's new movie No Hard Feelings, where she, a character called Maddie, is hired to date this 19-year-old guy, Percy. She's hired by his parents because they're trying to get him to break out of his shell, and she agrees to this. She does this because she needs a car. It's a cool movie, mostly decent watch, and actually as a rom-com it is actually pretty funny. But okay, so I know everyone's a little bit touchy about subjects with age gaps in relationships, but looking online, it might be something that actually very few people care about, It might actually be a mostly Gen Z thing, because article after article, I just kept seeing age is not a factor in relationships over and over again, referring to adults or relationships with people above the age of 18. But I'm not really curious when it comes to the reverse, like the discussion around whether older men should date younger women. It's practically been the norm for years. When you switch it though, you have younger men with older women. It seems that that's more societally stigmatized. But I remembered watching a video from a psychologist on this very platform talking about the pros of this type of relationship, and the fact that it is apparently unnecessarily stigmatized. And watching No Hard Feelings brought the images of that rushing back into my mind. Like, I was watching it and thinking, there's reasons that this couple would actually be together in real life. So I decided to do a little bit more research onto what exactly we understand to be the pros of being in this kind of relationship. And so that's what this video is about, slightly related to No Hard Feelings, but it's about the general question. And also, is this going to be the future of relationships? Like, are we going to see more of this in the future? I have some interesting thoughts about that, so stay with me. But first of all, we have to go through why exactly would this relationship work at all? Why would younger men like to be in relationships with older women, or older women in relationships with younger men? Starting with the latter, of course there's some stereotypical reasons, but that are completely true. Like older women liking the energy and energetic capacity of younger men and having a greater sense of control in their relationship and being sort of like leader in these things, which the people who think that women only like to be submissive in relationships crowd, it is true that most women sort of like that, which is why older men, younger women has existed for so long. But also by the time women get into their 30s, they're really confident in settling into their masculine side, much like older men are also more likely to be confident in settling into their feminine side, being more calm, less aggressive, less, boyish and rash, that sort of thing. And then of course there's the thing of being the older woman in relationship and the older person in relationship being able to sort of shape the sexual dynamic and activity, which in No Hard Feelings we kind of see. But in No Hard Feelings, an extra dynamic shown here. And I guess that's because a couple of things. The theme doesn't hit as hard for a movie if it's just the things that I stated before. I think that they added this level to make it so also spiritual, which is that Jennifer Lawrence's character Maddie, who's in her early 30s, is a woman who has sort of become jaded and cold due to time passing, and having a younger, more idealistic, romantic partner opens her up to the possibilities of life. It gives her hope again, which of course it seems very movie-esque, but then it's totally possible. It happens the other way as well, where sometimes men, at least it has actually been an age-old story, like you have the jaded sort of older man, and then the younger woman comes into his life and makes things feel happy again, feel hopeful again. But on the flip side, how do younger men benefit from relationships with older women? This is an interesting thing, and this is what I've been thinking about actually when it comes to the future of dating. Younger men can really benefit from relationships with older women, especially in the short term, in one real way, which is socialization, especially when it comes to learning how to socialize with other women. And that's the way that this movie really highlights. It's the driving part of the plot, in fact. Percy's parents hire Maddie because they want him to be better socialized, because especially as young men, a lot of our self and external validation comes from how our relationships with women go. That and how many hard or soft skills we can attain to do things like make money or gain fame. And to put it in a very blunt way, young men are, and increasingly so, useless to their peers in the sexual marketplace and even in the workforce, which has a correlation. What do I mean by that? For instance, they don't earn enough money. They aren't good enough at sex yet. They aren't good enough at handling relationships and thinking about themselves and understanding themselves. And it will get better as time goes on if they keep working on themselves. But then they have to still deal with their peers, who, young women are more explicitly valuable to the sexual marketplace than young men. And so they simply don't have the patience to do things like teach, for instance, the men that they're with or the men that they like, how to socialize properly with them, figure out things slowly and calmly. Combine that with the fact that women are more prone to experiencing negative emotion, and they're pickier, and that's a recipe for disaster. And also, usually they play their cards right, they're getting married to some older man either way, so they never really have to regret it. And so being in a relationship with an older woman as a younger man has a couple of things that could be a way for them to get over a bunch of humps, especially in the realm of knowledge, by actually learning how to interact with women and gaining a sense of self-knowledge and a sense of confidence, which we see Percy in the movie attain. And then of course, hopefully picking up some general wisdoms about life, because you're in a relationship with an older person, you should be learning things. And this isn't something that's completely like restricted to romantic relationships either. I, for instance, have heard stories from friends, but the reason that they have been so good with understanding how to deal with women is because they've interacted for long periods of time with aunties and older sisters, stuff like that. In general, it's kind of like exposure therapy. It helps to be exposed. But the problems for these kinds of arrangements show up in the long term for both parties, which is something I'm glad the end of this movie sort of acknowledges. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I mean, this might be sort of a coded spoiler, because I mean, Percy is 19, he's going off to college, and Maddie is going to find, what to do with her life now that she has this hope and different perspective on the way her life is going and she would like it to go. And so this is a situation where the two people just literally cannot be together, even though maybe a long distance relationship would sort of work if they wanted it to, but it's not for these characters, which is probably maybe where the critics don't like this movie, because it's not really going for the hard questions. Because there's harder questions. There's stuff like, what about children and marriage? Because if the woman wants children, these are the reasons, like I stated, these relationships work very well in the short term, because the woman wants marriage. For instance, she wants marriage and children. She's already getting a bit up in years. She's in her late prime years now. Having children, for instance, is not something that the young man would want to be entangled in. He's just not financially or mentally capable of handling that kind of stress. At least most young men are not. And if no children are wanted, which it sort of works and can work like that, it has actually worked like that for a couple of Hollywood actors and couples. Even if that happens, you still have to deal with the fact that marriage is a commitment. And so that means that the younger man is also committing to a life with no children. And the thing is that he will get older, he will get to the point where he's financially stable or even in surplus, and probably consider to himself, hey, I could probably date someone younger and actually have children now. And of course, he could file for a divorce at that point and reach the mutual understandings of, we've changed and life has developed and whatever people say to each other nowadays. But of course, it is still messy waters. So these relationships, like I said earlier, definitely work best as short-term, purely vibes relationships. If an older woman, early 30s, wants to get married, have children, it's still best to go for her peers or someone older than her. But why was I so curious about this? Well, I just thought, given the times, we're living in a time now where women have more access to economic freedom than ever. There are more single, unmarried women that are also not wanting to have children than ever, and younger women despising their peers because of the competition or the illusion of competition due to social media and just crazy expectations, creating steep competition, and the fact that women are picky anyway, especially when they're young. Perhaps it's something that happens more in society as life goes on. Because also, and maybe I'm just thinking about the exceptions here, I wonder what you think in the comment section below. There's also a situation where the older men who have these resources, a lot of them will, this is just statistically speaking, will be in relationships to people that are much younger and not their peers. And so you have the situation where young men are not valued by their peers, older women are not valued by their peers as much as, the alternatives. They are both the most lonely groups of people, and, with stigmatization going down, that might lead to a situation where these two lonely camps of people end up interacting and mingling more often, especially as the stigmatization goes down, which, if you look at the audience score of this movie, they like this movie. And so if you like this video, hit the like button, of course, but I'd love to hear what you think. Is this something that you're seeing around you? Have you been in a relationship as a young man with an older woman, or as an older woman with a younger man? What was that like? Just put it in the comments below, and thank you for watching.